Hey, David.
Hello.
Seahawks.
Yep.
Seahawks.
Yep.
Long hair in the middle of your face and Seahawks.
And now earrings.
Obviously, you've been out of the dojo a little bit too long.
But I still have a Boston Red Sox case.
David, earrings. It's got earrings. It's got, all right. Earrings it is. They're very nice. How long
Thank
do you have to keep those in?
For about 3 weeks.
Okay. When's the tattoo coming?
Not until I'm 18.
Okay. Okay, we'll wait a couple more minutes. Oh, I gotta pull this over here. Ah. Stop that share. And we'll reshare on the other screen. You saw my game I was playing. Screen share, screen 2. There we go. All right. Let's still wait a minute. Now, can you see the PowerPoint thing or can you still see my game? PowerPoint thing? All right, cool. All right, so what we're gonna do is this week we're gonna go through just an update on where we're at. And, first off, we talked about, this whole thing is gonna be on teamwork. So first thing we did is we talked about the law of the chain. And we talked about Edmund Hillary, and we talked about Tenzin Norgay, and we talked about them going up Mount Everest. No, this is a law of the Everest, I'm sorry. And we talked about them going up Mount Everest. And the interesting thing about this one is that when they were going up Mount Everest, they weren't the first ones to try it. If you remember, they were actually not the second or third ones to try it. There was a bunch of teams that went up before them, but the fun part was that each one of the teams that went up gave them insight about why they failed. So in that way, they were able to take all of this information about how the people that tried it beforehand and failed, how they did this, and then they were able to use that to their advantage and to get up to to be the first to summit Everest. No, there's a lot to be said for that these days, because there's a lot of, I know you guys don't get a lot of this in school, but in business nowadays, there's a lot of freedom to fail things going on. And why is that good? If you fail at something and it's not something like a test, why do you think that's a good thing to fail? Noah.
Because the best way to learn is to learn by your failures.
Bingo. And then everybody else knows what you did. You know, how many times, let's take COVID. How many times do people put together a vaccine for this and fail at putting together a vaccine for this, and other people learn how they fail, and that helps them to get closer to what they need to get closer to. You know, it's nobody can be innovative if they're afraid to fail. You cannot solve world hunger if you think you're going to be bad at it. You can't you can't get to a black belt level if you say, well, you know, I'm really not good enough. There's a lot of times during black belt training and getting out there, how many times does Sensei John go, no, do it, no, change the way you do it. No, do this better. No, do that. No, do this. That's getting better by realizing where you've gone wrong. So we talked about what some of our hardest challenges were, and we talked about, you know, our personal Everest and you know, the things that, you know, the things in my life that were most difficult to get through to get to the place we're at. And, you know, embrace the difficult, you know, embrace the difficult parts. We talked about throwing out no, you know, throwing out the no. No isn't in your vocabulary. You know, we were given in a recent project, which I've been working on nonstop in my other job. It's, you know, it's find a solution to do something. So we found a solution and we're ready to put it forth. And this has never been done before. We found a way to do it. You got a bunch of, like in my situation, you have a bunch of rules. You say anything that you come up with has to fit in these rules, but you can come up with it any way you can. So who wants to come up with something that's boring? I don't know. So we came up with something.
What it is.
What's that?
Depends on what it is, because if you're like, because honestly, Google is pretty boring, but who made it is probably rich.
Oh yeah. And it's really neat. I'll talk to you offline sometime about how Google works. Hi, Jaden. Thank you for being socially distant and wearing your mask. I'll talk to you some point about about how Google works. I'm actually reading a book on it now. And it's the book is on an engineering concept that they use, but it also explains on how their redundancy is and how their fallbacks are and how their algorithm gets updated. It's pretty neat. So we talked about that, and we talked about, what are your dreams and how can you make your dreams a reality? We talked about, we talked about, in order for your team to grow, you need people to help you grow. Like, again, when you go to do something like Summit Everest, something that's never been done before, you learn from the people that failed before you. And then we talked about, we put in a case study, and we talked about, how people on your team, like the enthusiastic beginner, the puppy, the guy, yeah, I can do this, yeah, come on, let's go, but still needs training, and the disillusioned learner, some people need a little bit of nudging to bring on their best. The cautious completer, knowing that you've done something right, but still asking if you've done it right. And then the self-reliant guy, which is something I've had to learn. I'll just do it myself. We talked about the law of the chain. We talked about the law of the chain and the links. The links, the weakest link is the one that's going to pull your chain apart. Now, when you form your team, do you have to make sure? Sometimes you have to change, or you have to supplement the people on your team depending upon where you need your strengths. You know, you could have, and Noah, you could have a 200 hitter on your team, but you could also have a 250 hitter. But you know, the 200 hitter can't catch a ball at first base, and the 250 hitter can't catch a ball at first base, and the 200 hitter can't miss one. So there's balance. You know, in order to, you gotta balance. Cameron, you gotta balance. Cameron, I look like a puppet. You know, yes, you have to. There has to be balance to your teams. You know, we talked about chains. We talked about the Exxon Valdez running aground because the captain get a little bit too much to drink and put like the deckhand on and said, "Here, keep this straight," and he ran aground. And then he tried to blame it on everybody else but himself, which is kind of not a good thing. See, that's another thing. I've always said this: own your issues. If you did it, you did it. Never try to blame it on somebody else. So, you know what? Go ahead.
Especially because admitting your own failures will help you realize what you did wrong, meaning you can learn more.
Yes, and admitting your own failures also causes a sense of respect to people around you, that you're not ready, that you're not willing to throw people under the bus. You know, we talked about examples and can everyone stay on the team, and you know, we talked about you know, balancing the strength of your chain. We also talked about, you know, big example time. You know, you want your black belt, but you need some help. Who do you get to help? You know, do you get a white belt to help you? Not really. Unless the white belt knows really good ways to stretch. And then what you can do is you can get, like with me, I need help stretching. So if a white belt is a yoga instructor, I'm going to pull a white belt on my team just to teach me how to stretch. You know what I mean? You have to look at what people's skills are. And then we talked about who would you want on your teams, and we talked about we talked about training, and we talked about Ryan's green hair, and you know, and we talked about you know, do you I really want help because I have a white belt. But we'll talk more about the balance you can get. It doesn't matter what belt you have, it's the skills that you bring to the team. You with me, Owen? Sweet. And we talked about how do we keep the chain strong. A lot of people, you know, the one other thing is keep the chain strong. Training. Keep people training. That keeps the chain strong. Keep people engaged. That keeps the chain strong. Keep people knowing that they're important. You know, I do that a lot. I deal with people about 5,000-6,000 miles away from me every morning. And the key with people that you deal with that you've never met before, but you talk to on the phone every day, is having them understand that they're as important as everybody else that's here. And that goes a long way. Psychologically, people want to know they're needed. So we talked about the chain, keep the chain strong, and then we talked about catalysts. And catalysts are those guys like me that are the fireworks. You know, the catalysts are the guys like Noah, like Autumn, like Cameron, like Owen, like Jaden. They're the fireworks. Jaden's been in some sparring classes with me, and he's the one that brings the energy up in the room. Cameron works with the younger students, and they get energized when they see him. Owen, you're just a machine. Everybody that works with you gets a lot out of it. man, there's people here that I didn't even see were here. That's because they don't have their video on. And it's you know, everybody has, oh, there you are. Everybody has benefit. If I'm looking at students to help other students, I look at who best works with people, who works with people better. There are some black belts. There are some black belts that I know that I won't. There are some black belts that I won't put in front of people to train them because I know they won't work with them. You know, I've had students that I went through 2 or 3. If I'm training with you for your black belt and it's just not working, I will pass it off to somebody else because it's not. It's my failure if I don't. Because you have to find. Sometimes you just have to find the right the right combination to make things work. You know, catalysts are catalysts, but catalysts are the ones, you know, you might think a catalyst is a guy who's bubbly. No, the catalyst is the guy who gets a reaction out of the process that you're trying to do. Like when Noah gets to his black belt, I will start to look for people to work with him. If I see they're playing around more than working, yeah, the person I put with you, Noah, might be a catalyst. But it's a catalyst in the wrong way. You could be a bad catalyst and you could bring out the bad part of people. So catalysts go both ways. But in this case, we're talking about how can we be a good catalyst and how can we do the best to build the team that we want to. Next week, what we're going to do is we're going to start to talk about those things, that homework I gave you last week that no, I didn't forget about, but I'm giving you another week. Think of something seriously awesome that's missing from the dojo that you think would go really well. And we're going to talk about it and we're going to get an idea and maybe we're going to run with it. And we're going to see how we do as a team. Okay? That's everybody. That's everybody that are down. That's everybody that are still. Oh, that's a great garden you're just sitting out in. That must be an awesome place just to get peaceful. No, you can keep it. You can keep your water. That's fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk next week about what we need to do how we can work together as a team to to really push a product out and see what happens. Jen, did you have a question or did you just raise your hand because it got raised?
Me?
Yeah. No? Okay. I'm gonna lower your hand. I lowered your hand. All right, guys, anybody have any questions? Awesome. Have a great week, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.